Wow, these cards look sick. How much is it? $100? Plus shipping? Wow. I mean, at this point, I might as well just make my own card game. Wait a second. Genshin Impact finally got its third major content expansion, and this gives us a great chance to look back at the absolutely explosive growth it's had within the last 9 months. A terrifying storm, being stuck indoors somehow more than us goblins usually are, a fun yet grindy gameplay loop, a colorful cast of characters, and a pinch of gambling addiction has transformed a relatively small mobile company into a massive multi-million-dollar game studio with rabid fans itching for every new expansion. While I think miHoYo has done a great job on its game department, something that's always kind of confused me is their merchandise and spin-offs. Their merch page itself is this strange grab bag of oddball items, and the KFC tie-in had the police force crack down on it. What I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of different opportunities this company could take when it comes to utilizing their beloved cast, more than just some pins and plastic stands. I still don't really know what this is and why it's so expensive, and I want to take a stab at it. Looking at these metal cards reminded me of a genre that sucked me dry of all my funds before Genshin even came out: digital card games. Following a very similar gacha system seen within miHoYo's Wishing Simulator, the digital card game scene caught on fire once everyone realized that Hearthstone was essentially printing money its first couple years of sales. We've seen multiple iterations of the formula pop up afterwards, ironically decreasing in quality with every attempt being more of a blatant cash grab. MTG Arena, Gwent, Legends of Runeterra, culminating in the hilarious failure of Artifact. May it rest in piss. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, so I'll be modeling my design after the Hearthstone system, which is also the game during my peak years of playing digital card games that I spent the most money, time, and salty rage into. I haven't touched a digital card game in a couple years now, but I still think I can make a really convincing system that can be used by miHoYo. So, you want to play some of the Genshin card game? Well, we'll have to start with classes. In Hearthstone, your classes give you a baseline understanding of what kind of deck you're playing, since all the cards within it are kind of grouped around a similar function or playstyle. Hunters are fast decks, meant to end the game before your opponent can even react. Mages are cacophonies of spells to choose from. Rogues lurk in the shadows and deal massive combo attacks when it's time to finally strike. And priests like to watch paint dry. I don't like the priest archetype, and neither should you. It makes the most sense that your classes would be the elemental types in Genshin. All we need to do now is have a class identity structured around them. Some of these are easier than others. Pyro is obviously a burn deck with a deck power that can quickly whittle down your opponent's health. Same goes for Cryo, an obvious control and freeze deck, which aims to slow the game down and play on their terms. Geo, I focused on their shielding identity, offering armor to your characters, which allows them to pack it in and wait the game out. Hydro, I'm sorry to do this to you, but you have the unfortunate honor of taking on the priest role, focusing on trades and out-healing your opponent. Can you tell I dislike this playstyle yet? Unfortunately, this is where the easily transferable class identities stop, and we have to get a little bit creative. This will make more sense later, but Electro is actually a token deck. I promise it may not seem like it now, but I'm not crazy for this one. For Anemo, I decided to go for the Freedom theme, making this a choose one deck styled after the Hearthstone Druid class. This isn't in the video, but I also wanted to make Dendro the Death Knight class on account to neither being official yet in their respective games. Now that the identities are created, what kind of cards will you find in each grouping? The aim is to take Genshin units and make their identities work reasonably well in the card game format, while also adhering to card archetypes. We'll be showing about 3 cards per class type, to help get a feel of what a low cost, medium cost, and high cost cards would look like. For Pyro, we have Bennett, who will try and burn your opponents down, but if you're unlucky, you could just end up burning yourself more. Zhongling follows this up as our medium cost unit, which throws out Guba, which can attack enemies all on their own. And finally, we have our 5-star variant, Diluc. Diluc's card text is based on his ult, a massive board clear that can keep tempo on your side of the field. The Pyro card's goal is simple: burn it down. Now let's all chill out a little bit with the Cryo class. Starting with Kaya, who has the ability to freeze a minion, stopping it from attacking for a single turn. We also have Diona, who turns your opponent's attacks against them. Finally, we have Eula. I really wanted to make the whole vengeance theme work in this, so basically we have an attack that will take vengeance on all enemies who have wronged her and her teammates. While this attack may seem small at first, it can snowball into an incredible board clear, as well as hitting the opponents directly for massive damage. Here's where we get to Electro. This is the class that I struggled the most for when it came for a class identity, so I worked backwards. I created cards based on the character's abilities and then found a through line from there. Through this system, what came out was a mixture of Hearthstone's Paladin and Shaman classes, which focuses more on token minions at the cost of overloading your mana. Here's some of the designs. We start with the low-cost Lisa, which helps define that overload cards help you with large-scale effects in the short term. Fischl is where we see more of that token aspect come into play, where Oz can be a great machine gun of damage when combined with multiple tokens to utilize his effect. Finally, we have the culmination of this class's identity with Keqing, whose clones each have a unique tagline based on the special Hearthstone keywords. Some of them might have charge, one has Wind Fury, one has Divine Shield. Each is a unique ability that your opponent's gonna have to figure out a way to deal with. Moving on to a more unified identity, Hydro. Outside of Child, Hydro units all kind of fulfill a support or utility role, so I thought that a buff base / healing centric deck would fit this playstyle perfectly. Xingqiu gives a small buff to simulate his Hydro Sword's extra damage. Barbara is the quintessential Hydro healer. I really wanted to use her C6 ability to show off more of those keywords that are used in Hearthstone. Finally, we have Mona, probably the most technical card in this set. I really wanted her ult to fit in with some way, while still being a heal-based deck, and I thought that the extra damage from massive board clears would be the best way to do so. I left Anemo and Geo to the end for a specific reason, so they get something a little special. Let's start with Anemo, whose choose one mechanic did give me some trouble when coming up with how that would work with the characters. Sucro shows us what low tier buffs would look like, where her concoctions have the ability to hurt or help. Zhao, being the little ball of angst that he is, works as a regular DPS, and you can tap into his demon form for explosive damage with charge. He actually has built-in aggro by doing 8 damage to face if you so please. For our large card, Jean shows off the full extent of this category, offering either a massive healing to stabilize your team, or go on the offensive. Now, for the big one. It just didn't make sense to me that the Genshin gods would just be regular cards that could die to a Bennett blast. But thankfully, Hearthstone has a fix to this. Hero cards. These are cards that replace your current hero power and have some kind of upgraded effect. Eventually, once we have all the archons, I would love to see each class have one of these. For Venti, as the god of freedom, he would never really want his minions to have to choose, so now they don't have to. With this, your minions always choose both of your choose one mechanics, meaning Jean can do both massive damage as well as heal on the same turn. I also modeled his hero power after his E ability. Lastly, we have Geo, the control deck to end all control decks, focusing on armor and divine shields. Noelle is first in our lineup, giving divine shield to a minion. If you aren't familiar with divine shield, it basically ignores one hit of damage and can really help save some units. I've actually opted to put Albedo as our middle spot, with Ningguang at the top, to fix the injustice that she's not actually a 5-star. Anyway, Albedo continues this trend of weakening the opponent's onslaught by taking the bite out of their attacks. A token deck like Electro gets absolutely ruined by this card. Finally, one card I really like the design of in Hearthstone, but is criminally underused, is Blood Elf. So I've actually adapted its playstyle into Ningguang. While it's a very situational card, if pulled off correctly, you can deal an incredible amount of damage to the enemy. It does seem a little harsh to take away all of your shielding without a way to get it back, so this brings us to our hero card.
I will have order!
Zhongli rockets to the field with a decent board clear, but the real star of the show is his absolutely insane hero power, stopping aggro decks in their tracks if played correctly. Now, you might be saying, that's nice and all, but you didn't fill a full 30 card deck. And you're right. This is more just an exploration on the topic and honestly just a fun thing my roommate and I cooked up one night. You could either fill up the other spaces with spells related to Genshin abilities or neutral monsters based on the enemies. The eventual goal is to get it where it's only playable characters filling up the deck, but unfortunately we have a long way to go still. This is where you come in. Do you have any card ideas that might fit? Maybe even some of the Inazuma types, which started coming out while I was working on this video, and so I haven't really gotten the chance to add them in yet. I would love to hear what you would cook up as their abilities. Leave them in the comments below. This is actually going to be the first of a large series of projects of what ifs about Genshin Impact, and I'd love to hear anything that you would like to see in the future. If there's enough attention, I might do a continuation of this, so be sure to subscribe. And priests get bullied during lunchtime, and priests have their lunch money taken, and priests are just the worst.